Hey, good morning, seniors. We're going to start with you today on the first book of the Iliad. As you can see from my screen here, I'm on the Before You Read pages. That's page 122 in your textbook. So if you have your book, go ahead and turn there now. If you have it scanned, find that page. We're just going to briefly go over this. I know yesterday's video was long, 37 minutes. I'm going to try and keep this down. Some things we want to watch for today. Main ideas of book one, main characters, main concepts, and test questions. Okay, so as we go through this, just kind of sit back and kind of take it in. And if you've missed class and you're watching this later, this should be a nice little resource for you. Okay, so first page, before you read, they always kind of highlight the literary focus. So foreshadowing and flashback, we don't need to spend time on that. Foreshadowing is hints of things to come. Flashback is a look backwards. So Homer used this technique, and millions of stories after it have copied that same technique. Main ideas here under historical context. Three main things we want to watch out for in our study of the Iliad, and then when we watch Troy, we'll compare to see if the film got it right. First one is right here, if you can see where I'm pointing, the spoils of war in combat, very important. That was in the video yesterday, or maybe third hour. I think you have to finish that video today, and so anyway, so that's one of those. We're going to hit that. That'll be on the test. Greeks believing the gods intervene in the lives of people. That's another one. And then the last one is the funeral rites for someone who has passed away. Very, very important as well. Hang on just a second. Okay, and we're back. I got rid of the little window there so you don't have to see my my mug the whole time. Plus I needed to, I've got it, just a minute. All right, third time's the charm. Now I got the screen the way I want it. Okay, so now you can see everything that I'm seeing. Vocab development, don't forget those words. Those are on the test. Revere, formidable, loath, implacable, destitute, allay. We talked about the three main points. And so what I want to do today is quickly scroll through here and get right to book one. You're going to see highlights. Okay, this is a scan that Miss Butcher did of my textbook in the classroom there. Thank you for that. That took a lot of time for her to do that, so I appreciate that very much. And I'm just going to go over kind of my notes, and you can kind of see what I see every year when I teach this. So book one is called Quarrel, Oath, and Promise. We're going to look for those three things. So to kind of summarize this for you, and I'm going to read parts of this to you. Yes, I know. Yeah, I know you can read, but it's also for my own benefit to kind of keep track. Because I need that today. So it starts with the invocation of the muse that we talked about. There are 9 muses in Greek mythology. Each one is a different spirit or little sprite that inspires in different ways. Incidentally, band and choir people, music, the word music comes from the word muse. So a spirit that inspires artistic creation. So the poet, in this case Homer, asks the muse Calliope, asks Calliope to inspire him to tell this tale to the people listening, and the inspiration he wants is Achilles' anger. So if you just kind of follow along my little cursor, I'm just going to read through this first part. Anger be now your song, immortal one. That's the muse. So he's talking directly to the muse. Let's have anger be your song, Achilles' anger, doomed and ruinous, that caused the Achaeans loss on bitter loss, and crowded brave souls into the undergloom, leaving so many dead men, carrion for dogs and birds, and the will of Zeus was done. Now Achaeans, you have to look at your little side note here, the Achaeans, that's another name for the Greeks. So when you read epic poetry, sometimes people and groups of people have many, many different names. All right, let's move on. Begin it when the two men first contending broke with one another. And here are the two men, the Lord Marshal Agamemnon, Atreus' son, and Prince Achilles. It was very important in their culture to know who was whose son, because if you came from a great person like Atreus, then Agamemnon always wanted his title to be Atreus' son. Achilles, his father was Peleus, so you will hear that referred to in the film as well, son of Peleus. So kind of an epithet in another way of identifying the character. So this is that concept, that Latin concept of in medias res, meaning in the midst of things. The war is in its 10th year, and this is the 10th day of a great plague, and Achilles is angry. Achilles is angry at Agamemnon, his leader. Now I'm gonna pause for a second, and I'm gonna refer you to a resource that some of you probably have not looked at. Okay, in Schoology, you will find a document that looks like this, and it is called the Iliad Picture Directory. These are shots of actors from the film, with a couple of exceptions, one being Queen Latifah, right here. Queen Latifah, I just think she is tremendous. I love all of her movies. She's not in the movie Troy, but just so you know, in the real story of the Iliad, the king of Troy has a wife, and her name is Hecuba. When we read Hamlet, Hamlet will do this whole giant speech about Hecuba, and so it'll be kind of cool when we get to that part in Hamlet, because we've already had exposure to these characters and we don't have to do a lot of background work. So this document covers the Trojans, the king and queen, Priam and Hecuba, and then their superstar son, Hector, and their other sort of superstar son, Prince Paris, who basically steals Helen of Troy, Helen of Sparta, now she's Helen of Troy. And that's the whole, as I discussed in the video previously, that's it's him taking her from her Greek king husband that spawns this whole war and brings the Greeks to the Trojan shores and results in this huge 10-day war. So kind of imagine big brother Hector looking at little brother Paris saying, great job, you couldn't control yourself with the ladies and now you picked the wrong one to mess around with, and you've got us embroiled in this terrible war. His wife is Andromache. As you can see, they're married, and they have a little baby who is also in the movie. Very cute, very fine actor, but very bald. His name is Astyanax. All right, and then Hector and Paris's cousin is Briseis, or Briseis, it's referred to in film. The next page has the Greeks. Notice in the Iliad they are called the Achaeans, the Danaans, and the Argives, all named after different parts of Greece where all of these different warriors came from to form this giant 50,000 man army. So here's Agamemnon, king of Mycenae. His brother Menelaus, or Menelaus, as he's also called in the movie, he is married to Helen. That's why they're all snuggied up there nice and tight. Brad Pitt, of course, playing Achilles, the greatest warrior that the Greeks have. His mother is Thetis. She is the only goddess who is actually visible in the film. She is played by Julia Christie. Ask Mr. Ludlow about Julia Christie sometime. And then, ladies, I'm sure you will find him to be a Hottie McHotterson. This guy here, I don't remember the actor's name, but that is Patroclus' cousin to Achilles, who is just chomping at the bit to get into the war and prove himself a man. All right, Sean Bean, also Boromir in all the Lord of the Rings movies, very fine actor. Also in Twister, if you've seen the Tornado movie, plays Odysseus. Great fighter, but more known for his brains over his brawn, his cunning, his guile, his trickery, which I think is nicely represented in the movie. And then we got Santa Claus here playing the part of Nestor, who is an advisor to the Greeks. All right, so this document, I worked hard on it to kind of find all these little pictures on the internet, and you're wondering, Mr. Martin, that's amazing. How can I be the proud owner of a document such as this? You will simply need to go into Schoology. So you have this screen. You go to your literature notes and resources. You go to Collection 2, Ancient Greek and Roman Literature. You open up the Iliad folder, and it's right there. Okay, it's the third one down, Iliad Picture Directory. Okay, bada boom, bada bing. Hey, it's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? All right, so back to the program. Oh, where am I going? Right here. Here, no, yes, no. That's something else. There it is. All right, so we're back to the intro. All right. So Agamemnon wanting to know at this point, we're going to get this flashback here in a second, but right now in the 10th year of the war, nobody has won. It's a stalemate. Agamemnon is furious that the Greeks now are suffering many deaths through a plague, and he believes that someone in the Greek army has offended the god Apollo, who is on the Trojan side of this war. The Greeks get Athena, the Trojans have Apollo, And he wants to know who in our army has ticked off Apollo so much that we are now being struck down with a plague. So let's read on right here, okay? Um, Among the gods who brought this quarrel on, the son of Zeus by Leto, Agamemnon angered him. Okay, son of Zeus by Leto, that's Apollo. Agamemnon has angered him, so he made a burning wind of plague rise in the army. Rank and file sickened and died for the ill their chief had done in despising a man of prayer. Ah, that is a priest. We'll get to him in a minute. So now the flashback starts. Remember, this was called a quarrel, an oath, and a promise. We are now getting into the quarrel, and then we'll get into the oath and then the promise. So this priest, Chryses, had come down to the ships with gifts, no end of ransom for his daughter. On a golden staff he carried the gods' white bands and sued for grace the men of all Achaia, that's still the Greeks, the two Atridae most of all. Okay, Agamemnon and Menelaus is who he means there. O captains Menelaus and Agamemnon, and you other Achaeans under arms, the gods who hold Olympus, may they grant you plunder of Priam's town and a fair wind home, but let me have my daughter back for ransom, as you revere Apollo, son of Zeus. Now, you'll notice in the margins there these TQ1, TQ2, TQ3, that's test question. Yes, literally, test question 1, 2, and 3. So test question 1, who are the main players here? Agamemnon and Achilles, the main people who are having a quarrel at the beginning of the story. Test question 2 is all about this. So just kind of imagine all the Greek ships lined up along the beach, and this old man, this priest, a Trojan priest, comes hobbling down to the beach from the city several miles away because the Greeks have taken his daughter Chryseis, or Chryseis. So this is where it gets a little confusing, and I'll show you a document here in Schoology that will help clear this up in a second. But this priest, Chryses, whose daughter is Chryseis, she's named after her father, he comes down to the Greeks and he says, hey, basically, guys, you took my daughter when you went plundering and pillaging a town throughout this war, and you've taken her as a war prize. I want her back. And notice he's granting them plunder of Priam's town. He's like, I don't care if you go in and sack Troy and kill everybody and take everything in it and take all the gold you want. I just want my daughter back. I will even wish you a fair wind home. Okay, just give me my daughter back. Then all the soldiers murmured their assent. They agree with the priest. Behave well to the priest and take the ransom. He comes down and he brings treasures. And he says, I'm basically just asking anything. Give my daughter back. I'll give you anything. Here's all the treasures I personally own, and I'll even hope that you win this war and end this 10-year siege and take the town, take the city over. But this is a desperate man. He wants his daughter back. But Agamemnon would not. Okay, it went against his desire. Oh, that must be nice, just to do whatever you want. And brutally he ordered the man away. Now notice the insolence, the rudeness, the disrespect of this response from Agamemnon, the leader of the Greeks, to this poor old Trojan priest. So not just a nice old man, but a man who serves the god Apollo. That's really pretty arrogant on Agamemnon's part, because he knows that Apollo is the god on the side of the Trojans, and now he's deliberately going to insult one of Apollo's own priests who, burns the offerings in the temple of Apollo and all those things throughout the day. Here's his answer. Let me not find you here by the long ships loitering this time or returning later, old man. If I do, the staff and ribbons of the god will fail you. Give up the girl? I swear she will grow old at home in Argos, far from her own country, working my loom and visiting my bed. Scandalous. Leave me in peace and go while you can in safety. In other words, old man, you better take your skinny old dried up white butt right on out of here, or you're going to be awful sorry. Don't let me catch you down here again. So harsh he was, the old man feared and obeyed him in silence, trailing away by the shore of the tumbling, clamorous, whispering sea. And he prayed and prayed again as he withdrew to the god whom silken-braided Leto bore, that is Apollo. And here's his prayer to Apollo as his spirit is crushed. He's been denied the return of his daughter. They've told him, Agamemnon has told him exactly what he intends to do to his daughter, and now he's praying to Apollo. Oh, hear me, master of the silver bow. Apollo is the god of archery. Protector of Tenedos and the holy towns. Apollo, Sminthean, if to your liking ever in any grove I roofed a shrine or burnt thigh bones and fat upon your altar, bullock or goat flesh, let my wish come true, here's the wish, your arrows on the Danaans for my tears. That's the plague. That's the secret code. He says, all right, Apollo, if I've ever pleased you as one of your priests, all of these years I've served faithfully in your temple, burning incense and burning sacrifices and making hecatombs and all those kinds of things, if I've ever pleased you once, grant me this simple wish. Strike those suckers down with a plague right now. That explains why the plague has happened. Now, when he heard this prayer, Phoebus Apollo walked with storm in his heart from Olympus' crest, quiver and bow at his back, and the bundled arrows clanged on the sky behind as he rocked in his anger, descending like night itself. Apart from the ships, he halted and let fly, and the bowstring slammed at the silver bowstring as the silver bow sprang, rolling in thunder away. Pack animals were his target first, and dogs, but soldiers too, soon felt transfixing pain from his hard shots, and pyres burned night and day. Pyres are the wooden structures that bodies are burned on at funerals. 9 days the arrows of the god came down broadside upon the army. On the 10th, Achilles called all ranks to assembly. Okay, and then it goes on. I'm going to summarize a lot of this stuff. One of the things I'm going to ask you to do after this little video is to spend some time going through the margin questions, starting with this one right here. No, sorry. Starting with that one. This one. Yes. I think there are 11. So it starts right here. 10 through 15. That's lines 10 through 15. This one covers lines through 27 through 38. So on and so forth. Okay? All right. So let me just kind of summarize the rest of this here. You can go into the text and find good textual support for your answers over here. What does Achilles want to know? That's a pretty easy one. What he wants to know is, all right, guys, why are we being struck down with a plague? Who did something really bad and ticked off Apollo? Because of, we're just being struck down with a plague. Pretty soon, there's not going to be enough of us to fight all of them. And we're not going to win this war. And remember, they're already in their 10th year of the war. So it's interesting that once he asks, sorry, I know I'm sliding the words around. Once he asks, who can tell me who brought this on? This old wise advisor named Calchas the Storides, he comes forward. He's, as I said, very wise, and he knows the answer. And really, probably most people know the answer. They know whose fault it is. But he asks Achilles to promise him that if he tells what he thinks is the right answer, that Achilles will protect him from someone. A great man in his rage is formidable, vocab word, for underlings, though he may keep it down. He cherishes the burning in his belly until a wrecking day. Think well if you will save me. So Calchas asking Achilles to promise, hey, if I say the answer, will you have my back? Achilles says, sure thing. Okay, all of this basically says, sure thing. Tell what you know. The diviner then took heart and said, no failure in hecatombs are held against us. It is the man of prayer whom Agamemnon treated with contempt. He kept his daughter, spurned his gifts. For that man's sake, the archer visited grief upon us and will again. This is going to then cause this big quarrel between Achilles and Agamemnon. Achilles is the best fighter. Agamemnon is the leader of the Greeks. It's you can call it coach and star player analogy if you want to. You can't win games without the star player, and yet you still need the coach to direct and advise in situations where maybe the player doesn't know it all. So Agamemnon and Achilles can't stand each other. Agamemnon is jealous of Achilles because Achilles has all the fame and the men love him. And Achilles doesn't respect Agamemnon because he's a pretty cowardly leader. He's never really in the fight much. He's always at the back, barking out orders and watching what happens. So here is test question number 6, incidentally. here's what it's going to take. Okay, relieve the Danaans of this plague. He will not until the girl who turns the eyes of men, over here, Chryseis, the girl who was taken, the priest's daughter, shall be returned to her father freely, with no demand for ransom, and until we offer up a hecatomb, that's a burnt offering, at Chryse. Chryse is the city where Chryseis and Chryses, her father, priest and daughter, were from. So, anyway, then only can we calm him, persuade him. That's the quarrel. The quarrel is that Agamemnon has this pretty young thing that he doesn't want to give up. He insulted the young woman's father, the priest, and now Apollo is raining down arrows in the form of a plague, and the Greeks are dropping dead like flies on the beach, and the pyres are burning every night. So throughout the rest of this section, Agamemnon and Achilles are going to basically yell at each other. There's a little audio clip here from the PowerPoint. Yep, you're seeing the word booty in the Iliad. That's pretty cool. Achilles saying, hey, basically, Agamemnon, most insatiate of men, how can the army make you a new gift? Agamemnon basically says, look, if I have to give up this girl to her priest father that I just insulted, she's my war prize. I can't lose my war prize. There's one of those main concepts we talked about earlier. And he's basically saying, look, I don't want to give her up, but if I'm going to stop the plague, then I want something else in return. And Achilles is like, look, what else can we give you? Where's our store of booty? Can you see it? Everything plundered from the town has been distributed. Should troops turn all that in, just let the girl go in the God's name now. We'll make it up to you twice over, 3 times over. On that day Zeus gives us leave to plunder Troy behind her rings of stone. That's the walls. So really, Agamemnon has already had more than his fair share of spoils of war, and Achilles is kind of just saying, we don't really have much to give you, but once we take Troy, we'll give you 3 times your normal share of the spoils. So is Agamemnon going to agree to that? Well, Agamemnon basically says, yeah, I'll give her up. But I'm going to take something in return. I will take a girl myself, your own. You remember he's talking to Achilles here, or Ajax's, or Odysseus's prize. Take her, yes, to keep. The man I visit may choke with rage, well, let him. But this, I say, we can decide on later. Look to it now. We launch on the great sea, a well-found ship, and get her manned with oarsmen. Load her with sacrificial beasts, and put aboard Chryseis in her love news. So, let's get her ready, let's ship her off, but I'm coming to take somebody else's girl away from them. Achilles frowned and said, you thick-skinned, shameless, greedy fool, can any Achaean care for you or obey you after this on marches or in battle? In other words, if you're going to do this, who's going to fight for you? As for myself, when I came here to fight, I had no quarrel with Troy or Trojan spearmen. They never stole my cattle or my horses. Never in the black farmland of Phthia ravaged my crops. How many miles there are of shadowy hills between and foaming seas. No, we join for you, you insolent boar, to please you, fighting for your brother's sake and yours to get revenge upon the Trojans. You overlook this dog face, or don't care, and now in the end you threaten to take my girl, a prize I sweated for and soldiers gave me? Okay, and I kind of read that as a question, but that's kind of what he's saying. Like, really? Really, Agamemnon? You're going to take this away? Never have I had plunder like your own from any Trojan stronghold battered down by the Achaeans. I've seen more action hand-to-hand in those assaults than you have. But when the time for sharing comes, the greater share is always yours. Worn out with battle, I carry off some trifle to my ships. All right, so that's the quarrel. So now Agamemnon challenges him and says, fine, desert, if that's the way the wind blows. Will I beg you to stay on my account? I will not. Others will honor me, and Zeus, who views the wide world most of all. No officer as hateful to my sight as you are, none given like you to faction as to battle. In other words, yeah, you're a good fighter, but you're a troublemaker, Achilles, and I don't need you anymore, so if you want to run away and go off and pout, fine, do it. But here is a warning for you. Chryseis being required of me by Phoebus Apollo, she will be sent back in a ship of mine, manned by my people. That done, I myself will call for Briseis at your hut, and take her, flower of young girl that she is, your prize, to show you here and now who is the stronger. Test question 7 basically asks, why does Agamemnon take Briseis from Achilles? And it is to prove that he is stronger, not physically, but that he is more powerful in rank, because he is king of Mycenae and he is the leader of the Greek army. So Achilles, though, is going to take one for the team. He's going to be very upset by this, but he knows that it is for the good of the group. However, and this is where this painting comes in here on the next page, he, in a moment of rage, he is ready to draw his sword from his hip, stand off the rest, in other words, keep all the other soldiers at their distance, and kill in single combat the great son of Atreus, that's Agamemnon, or should he hold his rage in check and give it time? And as this tumult swayed him, as he slid the big blade slowly from the sheath, Athena came to him from the sky, the white-armed goddess. There's your epithet describing Athena. Hera sent her, being fond of both, concerned for both men, and Athena, stepping up behind him, visible to no one except Achilles, gripped his red gold hair. There is our concept of the gods intervening. We've already seen the concept of the importance of the spoils of war and not losing your war prizes, and now comes into play that the concept of the gods and goddesses intervening. So Hera is the wife of Zeus, who is the head of all the gods on Mount Olympus. She is fond of Achilles, and she is fond of Agamemnon. She does not want to see Achilles kill Agamemnon, so she sends the white-armed goddess and the gray-eyed goddess, Athena. She sends the gray-eyed goddess, Athena, to basically save Agamemnon's skin. All right, so let's take a look at that picture. So here's Agamemnon over here. He has just told Achilles over here, hey, dude, I'm going to take your girl away from you because, I got to give up my girl to stop the plague, so what do you think about that? Achilles thinks, how about if I just pull my sword and run it through your big fat gut, you big old hunk of tub of lard? And before he can, Athena comes out of nowhere. She is invisible to everybody else except Achilles. She grabs his hair. He turns and sees her, very surprised to see her, and she has a little deal. And he kind of looks at her and is like, what are you doing here? And she says, it was to check this killing rage I came from heaven, if you will listen. Hera sent me, being fond of both of you, concerned for both. Break off this combat, stay your hand upon the sword hilt, let him have a lashing with words instead, tell him how things will be. Here is my promise, and it will be kept. Winnings 3 times as rich in due season you shall have in requital for his arrogance. But hold your hand, obey. The great runner Achilles answered. There's his epithet. Achilles always associated with the fast running. Nothing for it, goddess, but when you two immortals speak. There we go. A man complies, though his heart burst, just as well. Honor the gods' will, they may honor ours. On this, he stayed his massive hand upon the silver pommel, and the blade of his great weapon slid back in the scabbard. The man had done her bidding. Off to Olympus, gaining the air, she went to join the rest, the powers of heaven, in the home of Zeus. So she saves Agamemnon's skin. You have to imagine that Agamemnon would have seen Achilles starting to draw his sword, but then suddenly stop, look behind him, and because Athena is invisible to everybody except for Achilles, Agamemnon probably is very confused and mystified by why Achilles all of a sudden changes his mind so abruptly. So, great example of the gods, and in this case the goddesses, interfering in the lives of men. So Achilles calls Agamemnon a sack of wine. Wine sacks back in those days traditionally were made of bladders from animals. So basically, you dirty old piggy bladder guy with your cur's eyes, curs are mangy mutts, mangy dogs, and your antelope heart. And he kind of basically rips him a new one. And he calls him a leech, commander of trash. That's my personal favorite right there. Doo-doo head, he probably throws in there somewhere. I swear you never could abuse one soldier more. In other words, you have insulted me to the core. But here's what I say. Now, here's that oath. We know the quarrel between the two men. Here's the oath. my oath upon it by this great staff. And now he goes into this big, long thing that I'm going to skip. Okay? He basically says, I'm going to swear on this twig that, doesn't have any branches on anymore. As sure as this branch is never going to give new leaves anymore, I swear, a day will come when every Achaean soldier will groan to have Achilles back. That day you shall no more prevail on me than this dry wood shall flourish. Driven though you are, and though 1,000 men perish before the killer Hector, you will eat your heart out, raging with remorse for this dishonor done by you to the bravest of Achaeans. And who is the bravest of Achaeans, everybody? Yes, Achilles. He's talking about himself. He's saying, all right, fine, Agamemnon. You're going to take my girl away. I'm going to quit the war, and I'm going to make you this oath, this promise, or this. You are going to beg me to return to fight for you, because you're never going to get the glory that you want by being the one who finally sacked and pillaged the city of Troy. You can't do it without me. And of course, kind of think about it, they've been fighting for 10 years with Achilles and they still haven't won, but more on that later. But his oath is, men will, you yourself and every other Achaean or Greek soldier will groan to have me back. Then he hurls the staff and is ready to rip him another new one, but refrains. Now Nestor steps up. Nestor is a nice old guy, an old Greek wise man, and he makes this speech and says, all right, boys, that's enough fighting. You guys just shake hands and make up. No, he doesn't really say that, but he says, look, guys, we're in a war. We're supposed to be fighting the Trojans, not ourselves. If we can't get along with each other, we're sure as heck not going to beat the Trojans. Okay? Stop fighting each other. Okay? All right. Then he turns to each of them. Lord Agamemnon, do not deprive him of the girl. Renounce her. The army had allotted her to him. Okay, Achilles, for your part, do not defy your king and captain. All right? So that's kind of how that works out. That's the old man's advice. So, moving right along. I'm sure this is going way longer than I wanted it to, but oh well, I'm having fun. And you're probably sleeping, so I'm still going to talk. All right. Achilles then makes this announcement that says, I pity the fool who comes to take my girl away, but in his heart he knows he's going to give her up because that's what's going to be the best for his fellow soldiers. Giving this Chryseis or Chryseis back to her father, the priest, will stop the plague, and they cannot win for sure while the plague is still going. Okay? All right. Agamemnon sends a couple of messengers to Achilles' hut to get Briseis and to give her to Agamemnon. And then we get into this last little thing here. Let me see here. Achilles is now weeping for his loss. Because of Agamemnon, the great lord, has humiliated him, and he has my prize by his own whim for himself. And so now Achilles is crying home to mum. All right? And so Thetis is going to come and console him. Child, why do you weep? What grief is this? So remember, this section is called the quarrel, the oath, and the promise. Here comes the promises part. Once Achilles tells his mother Thetis how that naughty man Agamemnon just took my girlfriend away, okay, then he wants her to promise him that she will go up to Mount Olympus and talk to Zeus and get Zeus to do something for him. Now, this is the interesting part, and we're almost done here, promise. I don't even know how long I've been talking. There's another little backstory here, but basically, Thetis, at one time, Achilles' mother, did something really great for Zeus and helped him when all the gods of Mount Olympus were going to overthrow Zeus because he was getting a little big for his britches. She went and got some help. Got this enormous giant, Briareus, okay, giant who helped Zeus and the Olympians overcome the Titans. Basically, she saved Zeus from getting thrown off of the throne of Mount Olympus. She kept him in his place of authority and power, and he owes her a favor. And so Achilles says, Mom, Zeus owes you a favor. Go ask him. Here's what I want you to do. Now, here's the surprising twist. He does not ask Zeus to come onto the Greek side and help them win and beat the Trojans. He asks his mother to ask Zeus to take the Trojan side. Remember that Achilles has just quit. He has kind of like given his coach the finger and walked off the field. Okay, sorry, it's school, but whatever. And said, I'm out of here. Good luck. You're going to beg me to come back. Now he asks his mom to go to Zeus and say, Zeus, why don't you go onto the side of the Trojans, start intervening, start meddling, start mucking about, and I want you to make sure that the Trojans start killing a whole lot of Greeks. What that will do, of course, is that will make the men even more desperate for Achilles and his Myrmidons, his own men, his own troops, to rejoin the fight. So, in a way, this kind of begs the question, and this will probably come out in a journal. In a way, instead of taking one for the team, he's really asking for Zeus to take the other side to wail on the Greeks so that they will become desperate enough and Agamemnon will become desperate enough to ask him back. So I'll ask you in a journal later this week about what you think about that decision. Okay, so that's a really kind of a tricky passage to bring out. So here's Achilles talking to his mom. Remind him, meaning Zeus, Mom, remind Zeus of these things. Cling to his knees, tell him your good pleasure, and if he will take the Trojan side and roll the Achaeans back to the water's edge, back on the ships with slaughter. All the troops may savor what their king has won for them, and he may know his madness, what he lost when he dishonored me, peerless among Achaeans. So that's test question number 9. All right. His mother agrees. Long story short, she makes the journey, she talks to Zeus, and he agrees to get involved and take their side. All right, here's what I would like you to do. I don't know where you are in this process on Wednesday, but let's say by Thursday, by the end of class, have these done. Your margin questions, there's 11 of them, and then have these questions all done. And let's do 1 through 8. And I'm going to take question number 9 and make it the journal question for later in the week. All right, that's it. I probably talked way longer than I wanted to, but those are the breaks. And it is pretty epic because it's an epic poem. All right, I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.